Public international climate finance generally refers to funding that is channeled from developed to developing countries to help pay for climate mitigation and adaptation activities.
International climate finance, if we're talking here about kind of finance that is meant for developing countries, it comes largely from public international institutions like development finance institutions like the World Bank, or places like the Green Climate Fund, or bilateral sources of funding like USAID. It might also come, though, from private places like the Gates Foundation, the Bezos Earth Fund, which are private institutions that provide funding to, among other things, climate action.
First, you have the different stages of a project cycle. It could be the design, the implementation, the monitoring of the project. Then you also have the capacity building of the different stakeholders that are involved in these different stages of a project. You can fund the development of qualitative and quantitative data that is key for the development of projects. And finally, you can also finance the different policies, the different strategic frameworks that are needed to ensure the sustainability of this project.
Normally, the way to access to these resources is through governments. Actually, in certain cases, certain entities within governments, for instance, the finance ministries or the environmental ministries, are the dedicated or the designed focal points for certain institutions. For instance, the Green Climate Fund, the Global Environmental Facility, the Adaptation Fund, they have their own designated focal points to access to these resources.
And when accessing the types of sources I outlined in terms of international climate finance, there's different enabling conditions you need for each of those different sources. You also need basically a team of various sectoral experts who can help understand the different climate impacts of those projects or their relevancy to their climate plans. And accessing those sources of funding can take a lot of time and resources, so having staff to help put together those project proposals is really critical, even though there are now different project preparation facilities available to countries to help them get financing to put together those projects.
One of the critical elements is how to empower and how to strengthen the institutional arrangements in the countries to allow them to understand better the needs or the requirements to access to these financial mechanisms. Not all the countries have dedicated offices to, for instance, understand and follow the rules of these financial institutions.
I think that it's important for countries to have the following elements in place in order to maximize and to make the most of international climate finance opportunities. First, to have a climate finance strategy. Second, to have a pipeline of projects. Third, to have a capacity building plan in place. Fourth, to develop the qualitative and quantitative data. And finally, to have a monitoring mechanism to monitor project implementation, but also the finance that is mobilized towards their climate finance needs.
So international climate finance can really be key in countries where there's a great need for highly concessional finance, grant funding, other types of finance. This can be particularly in low-income countries or in other places and sectors where there is not likely to be an income per se, and where the private sector therefore might not be that interested in investing.